Welcome again to another episode of Let's Talk Music Richmond. And tonight we have the great drummer from my hometown of Petersburg, Virginia, Ernest Green. I have the privilege of having Ernest over here, and I got a chance to listen to him play drums again. He's still the funky man. He still got it.
I'm trying to encourage him to take advantage of those opportunities more often.
We're gonna get it together, and now that he knows where I am and he sees what we're working with, I think there's a potential to get him to do a little something, Charles.
So encourage him to sing, because to me, that was the real number one extra plug for Ernest as far as I'm concerned. You know, as you know, Bill, my focus on the group was always about the vocal side. But what Ernest had was enough dependable vocal support.
In all of our conversations, I've kind of described situations where I have observed things like you singing the "You'll Never Find" was one of the. I mean, you sang "You'll Never Find" by Lou Rawls better than everybody but Lou Rawls, and so in my observing your group, there's the one tune that Ernest used to sing that used to just make the girls scream and holler and cry and ask their mama, can they have Ernest? And that was Always and Forever.
Oh, no doubt.
At the end of Always Forever, where that high part kicked in,
yes, sir.
and Ernest sang that song, man. I haven't heard any band ever, other than the original band that did it. I hadn't heard anybody do a better job of that than Ernest Green. And while he's playing drums.
I mean, again, I can't emphasize enough how important Ernest was to me with that vocal. Ernest added more with the support voice to the structure of the rest of the group.
You had the best vocals of any band around. You always sang as good as a singing group. Ernest, when did you start playing drums?
11 or 12. We had a little small band in a little neighborhood that I lived in. And I was a bass player. And we should do these little gigs at these little, you call them juke joints now. You know, we were real young. We had this manager. And anyway.
Who was the manager?
A guy named, they call him Mr. C. His name was Budum Claiborne. Mr. Claiborne.
Right. I know about him.
All right. We had a little group, man. Me, 5 or 6 other guys, a couple of girls singing.
Name some of them, because that's what we do here.
All right. Greg Stutterman was the drummer.
Okay.
A guy named David Smith was the guitar player. I was the bass player. And Kenny Crockett was the let's say the
road manager,
the gopher,
road manager.
Okay, good. That's good. He was the road manager. And made all the signs. Yeah. We used to make our own signs and stick them up on there. Anyway,
marketing executive.
There you go. Okay, now turn.
PR personnel. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then we used to play these little gigs, and I was playing one night, and as I was playing, I was watching the drummer. The drummer get to sit down all night. I'm serious, man. This is what it's true. I said, this guy gets to sit down all night and play. Yeah, but I'm telling you, man. I said, wait a minute. And this guy getting paid the same money, and I got to stand up. I'm gonna start doing what he's doing.
Oh no!
I swear to God, that's what got me into drum. That was it, player. That was it.
Ernest.
I'm serious, man. That was
okay.
It.
You are legitimately Ernest, no question about it.
Yeah.
And you were about 12 years old at the time.
I'm gonna say no, maybe 10 or 11, man. We was country boys. Hey, man, that was
where were you from?
Denwood, Virginia.
West Petersburg, or just Denwood?
Denwood, West Petersburg, and we played at places like Jesse Walker's Green Door.
Yes, sir. And the Paradise Hall.
Paradise Hall, Southside Inn.
Yes, sir.
Gibbons Inn.
Yep, Gibbons Inn.
Yeah, all them places.
You were motivated by the student.
Yes.
Who taught you how to play drum?
pretty much I taught myself.
All right.
You know, but I used to watch a cat named Leroy Williams that played, used to call him T-Mac. He played with a group called the Astronauts.
Yeah,
back in the day. Yeah.
Right.
And
he's from Dinwiddie?
Yes.
From West Petersburg, out that way?
No, he was actually from Dinwiddie County.
Oh, from Dinwiddie, okay.
Yeah, and then another boy was a guy named Murphy. Lumpy is what his name. He played with a group called the Soul Drifters, which my brother played bass. And that's what started me to playing bass, because my older brother was.
What's your brother's name?
John Green.
John Green. Where'd you go to school?
I went to elementary school. I went to East Side Elementary and then
East Side Elementary, right.
And then mom and dad split and I moved with mom. I went to Peabody and Petersburg. The old Petersburg High.
Right. On
the governor's school now.
Right,
yeah.
right. On Washington.
And Peabody was in the same place. And I went to elementary.
So who was your first music teacher?
Mac, Mr. McKinley.
Mr. McKinley.
Yeah.
McKinley was as famous here in Petersburg, Charles, as Joe Kennedy and Peyton and Jasper. He taught at Peabody, and then he eventually ended up at the Petersburg High once they integrated.
Yeah. I see.
But I know he was at Peabody in the 50s when my mother taught there. That he and I worked together in the 80s, in 86, 85, 86. I was band director at Peabody.
When you were in high school, you played drums in the high school marching band?
Marching band, the concert band, and all regional band.
So Ernest, who was the first legitimate band you gigged with?
Jimmy Newton in the Uptown something. He sung and played guitar.
Wow. So how old were you when you played with Jimmy Newton, and why your mama let you go out there like that?
Well, hey man, because I was more or less like Charles can contest to this. You're kind of hard headed, you know. Mama didn't really want me to, but man, I just wanted to play music, man.
I got you.
So I pretty much just did it.
You just went ahead and played, and
yeah.
Out there hanging with the big guys, the old dudes.
But it's a good thing, man. I'm glad that I was able to.
So when did you first meet Bill Jones?
I was probably about 15 or 16 when I first met Bill. Matter of fact, he was the first cat that said. Matter of fact, it was some group was playing, and he's
Mustang.
It might have been the Mustangs, and he said, "I want this kid to play. Let him play drums." And I played drums, and that was it.
That was it. You were hooked. Yeah. They were hooked. Yeah. Everybody was hooked.
Yeah.
Bill Jones was undoubtedly your biggest fan. Let me tell you.
Yeah, he definitely, man. He looked out for me, man.
He talked about you constantly, and like he had his eye on you. He was always looking out for you.
Yes, he did.
He was your biggest fan, no doubt.
Matter of fact, he saved me from. Well, to me, he was my hero, Milton Johnson, because I was playing. He brought me up to play, and Milton was playing with this group. I can't remember what group it was. And when I started playing, Milton stopped and he said some things to me that it almost made me cry. And Bill got on him hard.
Okay.
Said, you started, you had to learn, you wasn't always as good as you are. But he basically took up for me.
Right.
And I respected him tremendously after that, man.
He definitely was a big supporter for you. No doubt.
So Ernest, tell us a little bit about what you did. Give us a sequence of, because you said Johnny Newman, and then you played with Stacey Henry. Who else did you play with up through Ujima, and then after Ujima? Tell us a little bit about your past as far as your gigs.
In Petersburg was with Progressive Authorities after Jonathan and Clarence left the group. Then after that group, I think I remember auditioning for Stacey Henry because Elwood was leaving.
Elwood was leaving, right.
Yeah, matter of fact, the audition was at a place called Tony's on Halifax Street.
Yep, I know.
I remember playing the song "Cool in the Game." Can't get enough. That's the song
funky stuff.
Yes. And then it was Stacey. Then after Stacey, I think it was Ujima then. I think, and then after Ujima, Power Play. And then I moved away because wife went to military. We moved to the Messages, and I came back, started playing with what used to be Sandcastle with Fred Alfred. And then after Sandcastle, I think I went with I think it was Power Play, I think. I played with them for probably about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, okay.
And then when I came back, I got with him. I hooked up with him again, and we was triple scoops. It was just 4 pieces. Well, actually, 3 instruments, and vocal.
Okay.
Yeah.
He has always had his finger on the pulse. I remember him from back in the early 70s at the Cozy Cat, when Joe Carter had the Cozy Cat.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe let his band play. He had an all-white group at that time. And Joe would let him come over there and play a couple of gigs at the Cozy Cat. And so I remember meeting him then. But over the years, he has also been his groups have been always in front doing proms and weddings and things like that.
Yes,
in that West End, far West End community. And he's always been around. He's been a figure around for quite a while.
Yeah.
Hey, Charles, Ernest kind of like highlighted something, especially what you talking about, Alfred, which is there was a transition from the groups like ours to the integrated, what I call hotel integrated club bands. Like when you talk about Andrew Lewis and Power Play and a couple of other bands here in Richmond, when they started integrating bands, you know what I'm saying? That came, because remember, up until that point, 90% of the bands were either black or white.
Yeah. Well, again, one of my first bands was an integrated band, because I was on the integrated first end, and I was on the black end doing Terminations. But that would have been before I had ESP, so that would have been in 1970.
Yeah, what kind of places were you all playing?
All we did was have to do proms.
Right.
You know, that's all we did. We did,
and believe it or not, a lot of times back then there was a requirement for bands, especially during that time of after desegregation and everything.
Right.
They were starting to have requirements that the bands be integrated so that both the black kids and the white kids could feel like they had some ownership in the proms and stuff.
Right.
But
that would have been the 69, 70, 71.
Right.
That time.
The integration was coming in. But the club scene that we all kind of like grew up in, and the Cozy Cats and the Gregor's Ballroom and that was all. And
the way I looked at it was that anything in North Side was always an all black group. Anything in the Far West End was always an all white group. And then when you get along the Broad Street area from VCU, that's where the integrated groups were performing, like the Andrew Lewis Band and all those kind of guys. The integrated groups kind of played in those areas. And so the fan district, that whole area. So
because we didn't do a lot of gigs in the fan district back then.
Right.
But we did get some gigs at VCU. But back to Ernest, and because Ernest, you transitioned, say, from the Ujima, Poison, Starfire, Trussell type bands to bands when you start talking about Sandcastle and groups like that. And see, Charles and I didn't ever get a chance after that point. We had moved on to the recording side, right? So like the recording groups, we kind of, there was a separation between where the club groups were and all of us who had finally gotten recording contracts and called ourselves going to the big time, and you know, and all that kind of stuff. So that
we didn't play the clubs no more. We started just doing arenas and, you know, across the country, traveling, that sort of stuff.
Because, you know, we left with Ever the Champagne King in 77.
Yes.
77.
I remember that. Yeah.
77, 78. So after that, the club dates kind of like diminished to the point that we, you know, and then we started recording and working on getting a major label deal. Charles and them already had the label deal.
Right.
And that's interesting.
It's been many a year since we made some music together, Ernest.
Yes.
The idea behind this project is to, in fact, reflect on those years and reflect on the people that were around us at the time and how these connections came about. The Mousetrap is where I was first exposed to you, and where I first heard you introduced to you as a drummer. I didn't know anything about you before that, other than the conversation that I was having with Bill Jones or whoever else is in the area, and your name came up. But I first saw you playing in the Mousetrap, and I don't know who you were playing with, but that's when I first saw you playing. I was in the Mousetrap. But then the thing that won you with me was you were singing. See, that's what I said. Well, if he can keep a beat, the drums okay. I can deal with that as long as he can keep a beat. Right. But now that voice, I can work with that voice. I can do some stuff with that. That was probably your greatest asset, in my opinion. Okay. Because that is the thing that made you unique among drummers. Another guitar player to sing, don't sing, another, keyboard player to sing and don't sing. Okay, that was kind of expected, but a drummer singing was rare. Music textures has always been important to me, on how the dynamics of music can be conveyed, and the vocal is that. The instrumentation is one thing, but the vocal is the cream that goes on top of the cake. You know what I mean? Okay. So to me, you may not have seen yourself as vocally and strong, but you were strong enough to fill spaces for the group. You understand? Okay. You gotcha. We had lead singer here and had lead singer there, but we still needed support on everybody's vocal thing. And your vocal added a lot, I think, to the group. It really did. And I'm sure anybody reflecting back on Ernest Green, one thing they're going to say, that guy can sing too. That's what they're going to say. Carlton Robinson was an outstanding bass player and an outstanding vocalist as far as first tenor is concerned. So actually, your voice texture was very similar to his. He had a little more experience, but as a lead singer, but your voice was along that same caliber, that same category, so to speak. That tenor. Yeah, that tenor. Falsetto and the tenor. Yeah, falsetto tenor. Yeah.
Ernest, there's one question I want to ask you that we ask everybody, which is, what's the one thing in your music career that still stands out to you as something that you'll never forget?
It was a lot of things, man, that I'll never forget. Squire yelling at me about playing the backbeat, playing 2 and 4. Okay. Pretty much. Yeah.
And that Squire was saxophone player with Stacey Henry.
Yes. Right. And I think that's why I play a real hard snare up until this day.
And he ingrained it in your head at a young age.
Yes.
That if you're going to be a good drummer, you better give me a 2 and 4 backbeat.
Because he needs it. Right. He said, when I solo, that's what he said. He turned around to me and said, look, you
I'm bouncing off that 2 and that 4.
Yes. That's what he said.
Call it bounce.
Yes. That stayed with me, man.
By the time you got with us, your 2-4 was right on the pocket.
Yeah.
So,
you also been known for having a funky foot now. I remember that about you.
Well, I think what contributed to that was actually when I got with Ujima, and the first time when I went in the studio, man, because now that was an experience for me because I had never been in the studio and I was just used to just playing. And I remember the first song that we started playing, they stopped and the engineer, I guess he said, I need for everything to be solid, which means your hi-hat, your hi-hat to be solid, the snare, the foot, everything had to, because I never had it put to me that way, right? Because I just played just freelance, but he was saying everything has to be solid. One can't be stronger than the other.
Yeah, well, Ernest, let me say this to you, man. You are one of the, your name has come up many times.
Many times.
In our conversations. But you and Clarence Oliver were real near and dear to Bill Jones.
Yes.
Because you all kind of like Greg Diamond and then Clarence and y'all kind of like stair-stepped your way through Bill Jones, where he prided himself on picking the next one.
Right.
You know, and he picked Greg Diamond, he picked Clarence, he picked you, he picked all of y'all were when Bill Jones talked about somebody, y'all were the guys that he was gonna mention.
Ernest really did have a strong skill set, and I
nobody doubts that. But let me say this to you.
No, I didn't doubt it. I didn't doubt it. Ernest doubts it.
That's the problem. Yeah, well, then I can't.
That is the problem.
I never could help him with that. When I tell him how great he could sing, he was like, "Oh man,
right."
Look, but I was gonna give you the reflection of the fact that I know about Nat Nolan and Marvin Daniels, and Bobby Thomas and all these other cats and Alvin Brown and Raymond Elliott, Chicken from out in Buckingham, all these cats who have come through states and everything. So if I'm sitting here on this conversation and somebody keeps saying, yeah, Nat Nolan was Bill Jones' favorite. Nat Nolan was Bill Jones. I said, but you get out of my face. You know what I'm saying? So, but at the same time, Bill Jones would do this to you that he did to me. No, not tonight, baby. You ain't have it tonight, baby. You ain't have it tonight, baby.
You get it tonight.
Not tonight, baby. Not tonight. And then the next night, yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. You was doing it, baby. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
I remember one time when he first started allowing me to sit in with groups, right?
Right.
And I can't remember what group came down. And I said, Bill, can I sit in? Can I sit in? And he was like, no, son, I'm trying to build things up and I tear them down. I said, yes, sir. I didn't have enough power to play with whoever that was.
Yeah, well, whoever that was. That's probably Eugene or somebody. Who knows? Yeah. Brother Love. Hey, look, Ernest, it's been a ball, man. It's been a gas. I was determined that we really needed to get you. Like I said, we're trying to get Elwood we're going to do Ronnie Coates. There have been, to be honest with you, man, there have been some awesome drummers that came through this area that were recording drummers who were as good live as they were in the studio. And you are one of those people.
Thank you,
that
brother.
we definitely wanted to get on record, man, so we can pass this history on to people and pass it on, and so that people will know who some of the more talented drummers were that came through here. And we can't leave out Lil Joe, because Lil Joe was one of them hell of a talented drummers too.
Oh yes.
But at the same time, we want to thank Ernest Green for coming on, Petersburg's finest.
Thank you.
We cannot stop.
Petersburg's finest.
Yes, one of them.
We cannot stop and talk about the fact that you played on the Follies for many, many years. Oh, I forgot to mention Bongo. Every time I think about the Follies, I can't leave out John Bongo Bailey. As far as drummers that came through the area. So,
how much did you guys know about Larry Washington?
I knew Larry Washington, but we knew Larry Washington after he got to Philly.
After you got to Philly.
Yeah.
So
Larry did all the percussion, a lot of the percussion at Philly International.
Right. See, I didn't know him in Petersburg.
He was from Dinwiddie, Ernest. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't even know him. I didn't even know. I
didn't know Larry during that time from the area. I did know him in Philly when I was working for Philly.
Yeah, he reminded you a little bit of your boy, Nathan. He reminds you of Nathan, kind of short and stocky, looked like he, like that. But when we encountered each other in Philly in the studio, he said, "Hey man, I'm from Dinwiddie, right?" I said, "No, man. And when you look on historic records like the OJs and all those things, those records, that's Larry Washington.
Larry got a track record, bro.
Okay.
If Doc Gibbs wasn't doing it, Larry Washington probably was. Everybody from this area ended up in Philly at some time or another if you were recording. And Joe said that he was at the Sahara Club and that the Manhattan's drummer got sick. and that the great Jose saw him in the club and told Whitney Houston's daddy, John Houston, that Joe Jefferson was in the house and he could do the drums. And they called Joe up on the stage, and Joe played the Manhattan show sight unseen. He just knew all the music. He played the whole show, everything. They offered him a job. He didn't take the job initially. Now, John Houston was also affiliated with the Delphonics. So Joe, when he got out of the military, ended up, and Nat Turner's Rebellion broke up, he ended up making some calls up there, and I think it was, he ended up talking to Tony Bell, Tom's brother, and that's how they introduced him, and he ended up in Philly. And of course, Bill Spradley ended up in Philly, Ron Harper ended up in Philly, Major Harris ended up in Philly, all of the acts from up here, Charles Manns ended up in Philly, Bill McGee ended up in Philly, all these acts ended up in Philadelphia at some time or another doing some work.
Right.
But I do want to say this again. Thank you very much for your time and your effort. And those drums behind you over there are expecting you to come visit again. And bring your own hi-hat, since you think the hi-hat over there ain't crisp enough. He told me my hi-hat won't crisp enough, Charles.
Hey.
I said, that's all that. Just bring your own.
Bring your own.
Bring your own.
That's
And
all
bring
right.
it. And bring, look, and he told me I needed a double bass drum pedal because he plays the double foot pedal
Yes.
that has the two batters on the one bass drum.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So he can bring that pedal with him too when he comes
No
back.
problem, my friend.
Some guys use two singles and some guys use a double.
So Ernest Green, thank you, brother.
For me,
All right, brother.
it is truly an honor to sit here and reflect with you about our time of the past, because you see, it's not. We've lost a few folks over the years, and matter of fact, you may have some other names to add to that list. I'm thinking about Carl Robinson or Dwight Smith or Melvin Watson, and you may have some other names because Larry Times from the Trussell, but you may know some other names on that list that who did Jose play for? Saxophone player. He was a
Push. Push.
band
He played with,
Push.
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 All,
Okay.
fortunately, all of them are still alive.
Yeah. Okay.
But Jose has passed away. So
Yes, Jose passed.
yeah.
But you may know of some others that have passed on, and we definitely want to mention them if we can.
I appreciate the fact that you guys took the time to actually put up with because I've been told that I was one trifling little guy in the band.
I wonder where they got that from.
Clement had told me that I was
Okay.
a rough,
Okay.
and stuff,
Yeah,
but which is fine. I mean, I was young, and hey, it
Yeah,
was
we,
what it was.
Yeah. But the thing is that it was your skill set that kept you in the consideration category, and we may overlook a little trifling thing when we
Yeah.
get the skill set
I get
in there. Man, if we could just keep this guy in line, he is seriously good.
Ernest, I can say this about you, and it's probably in today's connotation, it's both a little negative and a little positive. But all you really ever cared about was playing drums.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? All you ever cared about was playing drums. That business side and the gig and all that. Man, y'all handle all that mess.
Yeah.
Just tell me what time to be there and where we playing, and you start calling the songs out, and I'm with you. And it's kind of interesting. That worked then. You know what I'm saying? But a cat that's all he's worried about doing nowadays, you and I talked about it earlier, it'd be hard to survive nowadays if all you care about is playing your drums, because
You got to believe it.
that thing has changed. That thing changed so much, it's a shame.
Well, thank you again, Ernest, for being here.
Thank you
I'm
guys for
glad we
having
finally
me, man.
got you on. We would have had a hole in the armor without you.
Thank
That's right.
Appreciate it, man.
You take care.
All right.
All right,
Thank you
brother.
for tuning into this edition of Let's Talk Richmond and Let's Talk Music Richmond. And Charles, till the next time, my brother.
Till the next time, and I hope that's real soon, okay? Maybe
All
we
right.
get another one of those famous drummers in the line.
We're going to start it.
Take care.